Frances Ubuna. I'm an IDP Mode IELTS agent. I'm also an IELTS instructor. And today we'll be talking about speaking tests. So, how can you ace your speaking test? The first thing you need to understand is that every speaking test has a structure. There's part 1, there's part 2, and there's part 3. Part 1 deals with personal questions, part 2 deals with a cue card, which has a random question, and part 3 deals with global questions concerning your part 2 question. So, how can you ace this exam? You need to understand how the exam is graded. So, most times, the exam, or every single time, the exam is actually graded using some marking criteria such as fluency and coherence, your ability to speak well and ensure that your examiner can understand what you're saying, and your ability to speak with a flow. Then we also have grammatical range and accuracy, your use of tenses, compound sentences, and your ability to avoid repetition. Then we have the pronunciation. Please don't fake an accent, it's not necessary. In fact, you're most likely to fail when you fake an accent. But make sure that you pronounce words accurately. And how do you do this? You can learn more in my paid classes. Then we also have lexical resources, your ability to use modern English when you're speaking, or to use vocabulary when you're speaking. How else can you ace this exam? Very simple. So I'll be using my phone to explain how to answer your IELTS exam with a few practice questions. So now in my part 1, if I'm asked what is your favorite type of food, if I was to answer that question, I would simply say my best meal. Why am I not saying my favorite type of food? Because I'm trying to avoid repetition and I'm trying to paraphrase the question when I'm responding to that question. So if I'm asked what is your favorite food, I would say my best meal is jollof rice because it is easy to make. So why am I adding because? Or why am I adding my reason? Because it's very important to add your reason when you're speaking. So if they ask you a question, you answer the question, you give your reason. And then there's another part, you give an example. So what is your favorite type of food? My best meal is jollof rice because it's easy to make. For example, when I'm hurrying to work and I just need something to eat without having to struggle or without having to find so many foodstuffs, I toss in some rice in tomato sauce and I have jollof rice immediately. Or I have jollof rice within 5 minutes or within 10 minutes. So this way, I have answered the question, I have given my reason why that is my favorite food, and I've given an example of how, this is why it is fast or this is why it is easy. So if I was asked, for example, do you like cooking? I can simply say, oh no, I don't like cooking. If you notice, my facial expression is switched when I was speaking. Why? Because your facial expression should carry what you're saying. So now they've asked me, do you like cooking? And I've said, oh no, I don't like cooking. I can't say, oh no, I don't like cooking, because when I do that, it doesn't reflect that I actually do not like cooking. So, do you like cooking? Oh no, I don't like cooking because it's a tedious activity, especially when you have to spend so much time in the kitchen making a simple meal. So you see, I've switched my structure in answering the question. I didn't give an example, but I tried to re-emphasize my reason why I do not like cooking. So you answer the question, you give a reason, you try and re-emphasize your reason, or you give an example why that is your reason. I hope you understand that for part 1. If you want to learn more, there's a paid class that you can learn more about how to ace your speaking part 1. Now, speaking part 2. How can I ace my speaking part? So the first thing you need to do is, remember you have 1 minute to go through the question and jot down some points. Please don't jot down everything you want to say. Just jot down some keywords. So if I was to look at a part 2 I want to answer here, I will take, so I'm going to read out the question and then you can find the question on the link in your caption. So the question here says, describe a restaurant that you enjoyed going to. You should say where the restaurant was, why you chose this restaurant, what type of food you ate, and explain why you enjoyed eating in this restaurant. Now, if I'm going to answer this question, I'm going to follow the points step by step in the same order. You cannot start answering the third bullet point before answering the first bullet point because the questions are graded in the order they've been asked. So Describe a restaurant that you enjoyed going to. The first thing I'll do is take notes of what I've been asked to answer, write down my keywords before answering. Then after that 1 minute, when I'm asked to speak, I will start with the restaurant I enjoyed going to was Prime Chinese. The restaurant is located at Victoria Island, and I chose this restaurant because I like Chinese food a lot. I had some Chinese food at the restaurant. I had some pasta and I had some Chinese fried rice with stir fried chicken. Now, why I enjoyed eating at Prime Chinese was because the ambience was pretty, the people were respectful, and I had a lot of fun with my friends in the restaurant because there were few people inside the restaurant. So if you notice, I'm a bit distracted. Why? Because I'm trying to read from the question paper and also focus on you guys. But in the exam hall, I would advise that you go through the questions, try and pick the key things, and then try to speak like you're actually having a normal conversation. So I will redo this one more time so that we pick it. I would look at my question, pick my keywords, you're meant to jot down actually, and then start to speak. A restaurant I liked going to, or I enjoyed going to, was Prime Chinese. It is located at Victoria Island, Lagos. I chose this restaurant because they have amazing Chinese food there, and I had some of the Chinese cuisine when I went there. I had some egg roll and chicken sauce with a bit of pasta and spring rolls. I enjoyed eating at this restaurant because there were few people in the restaurant and the ambience was amazing. So you don't really have to say facts when you're speaking. It's actually a creative assessment in the sense that you can actually create a story and then speak, tell the story whether it is true or not, whether it's a fact or not. Because if you remember when we were in primary school or secondary school, we were taught in essay writing to write a letter to our auntie abroad, telling her how we miss. Even though you had an auntie, whether you had an auntie or not, you had to write that essay. It's the same thing with speaking. You can see any topic in your speaking. You can talk about the museum you last visited. Whether you visited a museum or not, that doesn't really matter. You have to create a story. Now, for the final part of speaking, in the part 3, you can be asked, do many people eat in restaurants in your country? If you notice, it aligns with what I was asked in my part 2. So if you're asked, do many people eat in restaurants in your country? You can say, oh yes, a lot of individuals have their lunch in restaurants in my country because they are working class people and a lot of people like to go out, especially on Sundays when people just want to enjoy their Sunday lunch with their family at a restaurant or at some nice place. And let me redo that because I'm a bit distracted. So if you're asked, do many people eat in restaurants in your country? You simply say, oh yes, a lot of people like to eat in restaurants in my country because it's easier to be with their family members and have an amazing meal than having to make it in the kitchen or having to have some homemade meal. So lots of people like to eat in restaurants in my country. Another reason is because people enjoy having memories at places like restaurants in my country. You can also be asked, what do you think a healthy diet consists of? Oh, I think a healthy diet consists of protein, vegetables, and a bit of carbohydrates, so that there's some form of balanced diet happening. Now, in case you didn't hear what the examiner said, you can always say, please can you come again? Or I didn't really hear what you said, please can you repeat the question? You're allowed to do that. But try not to do things like or you're laughing, you're not really sure. Try to talk confidently, even when you make mistakes. If you notice in this video, there were times I made mistakes, but I kept speaking. So try to keep speaking regardless of the mistake that you make in your speaking test. I hope this helps you with acing your speaking test. And please remember, we have paid classes on how to ace your speaking test. Do have an amazing day. Bye. Hi, good day. My name is Frances Ogonia. I'm an IDP Mode IELTS agent. I'm also an IELTS instructor. And I'm going to be answering a question today. So I got a mail from someone and they were asking me what is special arrangement and if there's a way to boost your scores through paying someone, if that actually works. And I'm just going to answer that with a few points. My first point is that IELTS has an integrity rule, sorry. And what that means is that your tests go through examiners. They also go through a lot of review. And with your international passport, without your international passport, or your international ID card, you can't enter the exam hall. So no one can actually write the exam for you. You have to write your exam yourself. Now, secondly, we do not, or let me not speak for IELTS, but as agents, you are not expected, you cannot influence the exam. Meaning that even when you pay people and they claim they can influence your exam, they're actually scamming you. So your exams cannot be influenced by agents as they are independent contractors. Thirdly, there is actually something called the special arrangement, but it's not what you think. The special arrangement is an opportunity for people with disability to have equal opportunities in the exam hall through some form of aid. And what is this aid? Extra time, larger exam fonts, or maybe extra time to process the question, or using any of the aids they will need because of their disability. Now, how do you apply for this? Oh, it's very simple. You can actually reach out to an agent to apply on your behalf, or you can simply use the website, submit your medical report from the federal hospital, and then write a letter to the organization that is providing your IELTS, and they would respond and send it to their customer care mail. They should respond to you within 24 to 72 hours and ask you for other documents. Please note, this special arrangement is not something that, how will I put it? It's not something that you say, oh, I brought more money, that's why I was approved. No. If you really have a disability, you'll be approved for special arrangements. But if you don't have a disability, you might be rejected for special arrangements. So please remember what I've just said. 1, you have to write your exam yourself. 2, you cannot pay someone to influence your results. There's an integrity rule in IELTS, so nobody has that ability to influence your results because it goes through a lot of reviews, international reviews. Thirdly, the special arrangement is not a, permit me to say, mago-mago situation. It is more of a platform that allows people with disabilities to have an equal opportunity in the exam hall using aids that help them or support their disability. And anyone can apply for it and get approved if they have disability. So please don't let anyone scam you. There are no special centers that can help you with your results. There are no pay, and again, I just needed to mention this. You can actually remark your results. So if you're not satisfied with what you got in an IELTS exam, you can pay to any of the providers of your IELTS, and then your result is reviewed. And if you did well, it is remarked. If you didn't do well, your score remains the same. Or if it's not, if they notice there was no need to change it, your score remains the same. This is done in a way that it is fair and there's a level of integrity. So there's no amount of money that can change your scores. I hope we understand this, and I hope we have an amazing day today. God bless you. Bye.